Number 10. Jacare Souza was set to face Costas Philippou at UFC on FX 8. Costas Philippou suffered a cut above his eye in which he had to withdraw from the fight. Chris Camozzi, who was on a 4-fight winning streak, stepped in to face Jacare Souza in the co-main event of the evening. In the fight, Jacare Souza used his world-class grappling skills to quickly take the fight to the ground and sinked in an arm triangle choke in the first round, winning the fight. Number 9. Chris Cyborg Justino was set to face newcomer Lina Landsberg in a catchweight bout at UFC Fight Night 95. Chris Cyborg had just defeated Leslie Smith by TKO at UFC 198, and Lina Landsberg was coming into the UFC with a record of 5-1. She also had a very good background in Muay Thai. In the fight, Chris Cyborg unleashed her full aggression, attacking Lina Landsberg from the start, giving her no chance to do anything. She bloodied Lina Landsberg up and eventually finished her by TKO in the second round. Number 8. Daniel Cormier was set to make his light heavyweight debut against Rashad Evans at UFC 170. A knee injury forced Rashad Evans out of the bout. He was replaced by newcomer Patrick Cummins on short notice. Both fighters had a personal rivalry, as Patrick Cummins claimed that he had made Daniel Cormier cry during a wrestling practice. When Daniel Cormier heard this, he was furious and mentioned that he would make Patrick Cummins pay in the octagon. In the fight, Daniel Cormier put an absolute beating on Patrick Cummins and finished him by TKO in the first round. Number 7. Anderson Silva was set to face Forrest Griffin in a light heavyweight bout at UFC 101. Anderson Silva at that time was the UFC middleweight champion and was going into his second light heavyweight bout. Forrest Griffin, on the other hand, had just lost his UFC light heavyweight title to Rashad Evans at UFC 92. In the fight, Anderson Silva completely outclassed Forrest Griffin in the striking exchanges. He dodged Forrest Griffin's punches and landed a clean punch, which knocked him out in the first round. Number 6. Stipe Miocic was set to face Junior Dos Santos at the Ultimate Fighter Brazil 3 finale. A hand injury forced Junior Dos Santos out of the bout. Fabio Maldonado, who was on a 3-fight winning streak, stepped in on short notice to face Stipe Miocic in the main event of the evening. In the fight, Stipe Miocic made quick work of Fabio Maldonado as he finished him by TKO in just 35 seconds of the first round. Number 5. Matt Hughes was set to face Royce Gracie at UFC 60. Matt Hughes was the UFC welterweight champion at that time, and Royce Gracie was making his return to the UFC. In the fight, Matt Hughes put a one-sided beating on Royce Gracie and landed numerous punches in which the referee had no choice but to stop the fight. The fight ended in the first round. Number 4. Anthony Johnson was set to face Antonio Rogerio Nogueira at UFC on Fox 12. Anthony Johnson was coming off a victory over Phil Davis at UFC 172, and Little Nog was coming off 2 victories over Tito Ortiz and Rashad Evans. In the fight, Anthony Johnson overwhelmed Little Nog with his power and brutally knocked him out in just 44 seconds of the first round. Number 3. After suffering many knee injuries, Khabib Nurmagomedov was fully recovered and was set to face Tony Ferguson at UFC on Fox 19. Tony Ferguson pulled out of the fight due to a lung issue. Daryl Hotcher stepped up to face Khabib Nurmagomedov at UFC on Fox 19. In the fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov overpowered the newcomer using his world-class sambo skills and eventually finished the fight by TKO in the second round. Number 2. CM Punk was set to make his professional mixed martial arts debut against Mickey Gall at UFC 203. CM Punk was a white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and had trained more than a year for his debut. On the other hand, Mickey Gall had defeated Mike Jackson at UFC Fight Night 82 and was a high-level brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In the fight, Mickey Gall took CM Punk down and sunk in a rear naked choke in the first round, winning the fight. Number 1. James Toney claimed that he would beat any UFC fighter. The UFC president Dana White gave him the opportunity and scheduled a fight between James Toney and Randy Couture. James Toney was a world-class boxer who held numerous boxing titles, and Randy Couture was a 2-time UFC champion who was also an Olympian. In the fight, Randy Couture took James Toney down, put a beating on him, and eventually submitted him by an arm triangle in the first round. Shortly after, James Toney was released from the promotion.